Hi everyone and welcome back. It's raining new DAC amp combos here at Sound News HQ, and while next week I'll focus my attention on the most badass sounding all-in-one unit, this week I'll try something much more affordable. This guy is called HiFiMan Goldenwave Serenade Junior, which sells for $649 in the US and 719 euros here locally. I already tried its bigger brother, the Serenade, and I'm very curious if its much more affordable brother retains the same organic texture and the same mighty powerful headphone amplifier. I'll try it with a bunch of headphones, amps, and with the speakers that you can see behind me, so let's talk about that. The good part is that we're dealing with the same case and look of the original, more expensive Serenade. The case work is identical and the build quality is as impressive as it was before. The case is made out of aluminum, and instead of matte black paint we have a red one that makes it less boring on your table. I no longer use matte black electronics, and personally I would choose any other color scheme except for black. Once again, we don't have sharp corners, and if you are as clumsy as I am, then don't worry about bumping into it. We have a simple front panel with every possible headphone output, a monochrome display, and a simplified UI. With the buttons on top you can select a desired input and output, and they also help you navigate its UI, where you can change the brightness of the screen, the input and output, and that's pretty much it. So we don't have any kind of digital filters, sound color options, gain settings or preamp settings, anything that might be interesting to you. Having a look on its back, you can see that the analog inputs present on the regular Serenade are no more, so you cannot use this one as a standalone preamp or headphone amplifier. You can, however, use it as a standalone DAC, or as a DAC amp combo, or as a DAC and preamp combo through a pair of RCA and XLR outputs. On the digital side, besides the usual USB, coaxial and optical, there's an Ethernet port too that unlocks its wired streamer, and more about that in a minute. As it was the case with the original Serenade, I was unable to open up its hood. I unscrewed every screw, every nut and bolt, but unfortunately it's not moving in any way, so I'll rely on the pictures that I found online. First of all, you need to know that this is an R2R ladder DAC that uses a network of resistors to decode those zeros and ones into sound waves, and not DAC chips that you can buy off the shelf. It uses two Himalaya LE DAC modules that were developed by HiFiMan themselves. The output stage uses a combination of discrete components and also FET operational amplifiers, so this is more like a hybrid output stage. But more importantly, we don't have coupling capacitors in the signal path here, so I'm pretty sure the sound will be less distorted and a little bit purer. The headphone amplifier stage is as impressive. Using 3 power transistors per module, we have 4 modules because this is a fully balanced amplifier, and everything is biased into Class A operation, delivering up to 3 watts of power per channel via those balanced outputs, so 1 watt less compared to original Serenade, but more about that in a minute. Last but not least, everything is powered by a custom 50-watt linear transformer, so the sound should be as thumpy, organic and thick as it was the case on the original Serenade. Before I describe its sound, there are 2 essential features which are not mentioned anywhere on its user manual, on the website, in marketing materials. And I'm pretty sad about this, but don't worry, I'll mention them right now. First of all, both the Serenade and Serenade Junior can work as Roon endpoints. So if you use a Roon server at home, then you can stream directly to your Serenade or Serenade Junior using it as a Roon endpoint. And this is quite a big deal because there are plenty of us that are using Roon as their main streaming platform. But if you are not using Roon, don't worry, because both of these are also Tidal Connect enabled. So just plug in an Ethernet cable, launch Tidal on your smartphone, tap the upper right icon, choose the Serenade from that list, and voila, you'll stream lossless music directly to it, and besides working as a DAC, preamp and headphone amplifier, it will also function as a wired streamer. And if you want the absolute best performance from your Serenade or Serenade Junior, then the Ethernet port sounded best to me, a little tighter, a little clearer, there's less noise. I'd say that the sound is simply purer via Ethernet compared to all of those USB, coaxial and optical. And if you are a Tidal user like myself, just give it a try. You won't be disappointed because the sound is just more transparent and the background gets darker as well. Now let's talk about its sound. Let's compare it briefly with the original Serenade and also with the FiiO K15, all of which are all-in-one devices, all of which cost less than $1,000 US, and it just makes sense comparing all of these. First of all, I want to mention that yes, we have 3 watts of power versus 4 watts on the original Serenade. We also have those Himalaya LE modules on the Junior and Himalaya Pro R2R DAC modules on the Serenade, so there is quite a small difference. And also total harmonic distortion is a little bit different. We have it at 0.0025% on the Junior and 0.0015% on the original Serenade. So I'm not sure you can hear a difference, but if your name is Batman, probably you can hear a difference. Everything else like channel crosstalk and also signal to noise ratio is absolutely identical. So in terms of soundstage depth and holography, these two should play very much the same, especially when using it as a DAC and preamp. And I can feel already a couple of you asking, hey Sandu, but how they compare sound-wise, because specs is one thing, but listening impressions is something else. And I'll say that there is a minor difference, especially when using them as DAC-only units or DAC and preamp combos, and there is a slightly bigger difference when using them as DAC and headphone amplifiers, but the difference is not so huge as it was the case in between that EF499 and EF500 by HiFiMan. The Serenade and Serenade Junior sound more or less the same to my ears. There is a very minor difference in terms of resolution. There is a little bit more, but only on super high resolution files, and only when using some super resolving loudspeakers and headphones. Yes, you can hear just 1% more on the Serenade, and if you care about this, then yes, the original Serenade is just ever so slightly clearer sounding. When we move to headphones, there is a bigger difference, and especially when using some harder to drive headphones like Susvara OG, Susvara Unveiled, HE600 like T+A Solitaire P, you can feel that the bass is simply moving more energy, there is more oomph. The kick is stronger on the original Serenade, and it's a little bit gentler on the Junior, which doesn't provide as much energy in the bass region. The original Serenade is more ass-kicking in the bass, and when it comes to transit response, the original Serenade feels like a heavyweight boxer, so it moves slower, but it just delivers much more damage with every kick, with every punch. Something that the Serenade Junior doesn't do, so it's swifter, it moves lighter, it's more ethereal sounding, and it also doesn't deliver the same powerful uppercuts with every blow. Tonality-wise, I'll just want to remind you that I'm discussing an R2R ladder DAC coupled with a fully discrete Class A headphone amplifier that is powered everything by a linear 50-watt transformer. And if you are a seasoned audiophile, or if you understand electronics just a little bit, then that should tell you quite a lot. But if you don't understand, don't worry. I'll just say that this is one of the most organic and natural sounding all-in-one combos that you can get below $1 As simple as that. Both Serenade variants excel in the mid-range department, so blooming a little bit with more emotion, infusing a bit more life into the music, adding a little bit of warmth and sweetness in the mid-range, and I believe all of that works exceptionally well with most, if not all, HiFiMan headphones, which are not that impressive, honestly, in the mid-range region. The mid-bass is ever so slightly elevated, and if you are coming from an all-pump based amplifier, then it will feel like listening to music for the first time, or like unlocking the Sleeping Beauty behind your headphones as the sound gets fuller, denser, and deeper at the same time. So from a somewhat dual 2D sound, you are going directly to a much more complex 3D sound, and that's the magic of R2R ladder DACs combined with a Class A transistor-based amplifier that likes to play with your imagination a little bit. Maybe the resolution went down just half a notch or something like that on the Junior, but the most important part is that its tonal balance, its tone and timbre, it's more or less the same with the original Serenade. And this is the biggest compliment I can give to the Junior, because most of you will be buying it thanks to this reason alone. Music doesn't feel forced or aggressive on the Junior, and the trebles are not trying to drill a hole into your eardrums, and more importantly, males will sound like males and not like females, if you know what I mean. And it's not just about the frequency response or about getting some gentle smoothness that it applies to the music, it's more about the way you perceive the whole experience. So it's no longer just an act of multitasking and you are just casually browsing something and you are listening to music at the same time, but it's more like a fun experience because it draws your full attention, it grabs your attention, and it highlights the beautiful parts of the music while discarding the rest. Some units do it okay, some units do it better, but I believe Serenade does it simply outstanding. And again, this is somehow the magic of R2R ladder DACs combined with Class A fully discrete amplifiers. And once you power it, you cannot power it off 10 minutes later because it demands listening time, because it's fun and it's addictive. Okay guys, now let's discuss its headphone amplifier, because I feel that many of you will be using this one with plenty of headphones, planars and dynamics, and you want to know how it performs. First of all, I want to mention that I believe HiFiMan chose the right tonality for the Serenade and Serenade Junior, adding a little bit of mid-range, boosting a little bit the mid-bass as well, and just gently rolling off the upper treble that I believe works as magic with all HiFiMan headphones, adding a bit more life and removing some treble energy excess. If you already tried a pair of HiFiMan headphones, then you already know that they excel in the treble region. Bass comes next because it's fun and punchy, and the last thing that you will expect in a pair of HiFiMan headphones is just a beautiful and sweet mid-range, except for the upper echelon headphones like Susvara and Susvara Unveiled and HE1000. Those have a better mid-range, but something lower tiered, those do not have an impressive mid-range delivery, and this is where the Serenade and Serenade Junior feel like a pair of warm gloves for cold hands, infusing warmth where was too little of it and nicely balancing HiFiMan headphones into better sounding versions of themselves. From the entire portfolio, the Serenade easily drove each one of them, yes, including the Susvara OG, and I could never reach its upper power limits. The maximum volume I could reach with the Susvara OG was 3 o'clock position, but more importantly, the bass didn't lose definition, tightness, and it was not adding any kind of distortion. The bass didn't lack energy or refinement, and distortion never occurred even at close to maximum volume. Everything else I had on hand, like the T+A Solid Therapy and the HD800S, barely moved the needle past 12 o'clock position, so I had plenty of headroom left remaining on top, and more importantly, the bass was quite playful again on the Serenade Junior, and there was lots of inner texture in the mid-range, again making them less dry or ethereal and more full-bodied and thick sounding. Using it in my main hi-fi battle station that you can see behind me once again proved me everything that I already heard via headphones. More exactly, it's smooth, relaxed and easygoing sound combined with an organic presentation that lets you enjoy music for a couple of hours. It sounded better than a FiiO K13 R2R that I tested a few weeks ago, The sound was nicely expanding on all axes, and there was a little bit more power, more weight to the sound, and I could feel that pounding my chest a little bit harder with the Serenade as opposed to the K13. I won't exaggerate when I say that it's very similar in tonality and technical performance with that live micro DAC that I tested some months ago. It's identical in tonality and in the way it portrays the music and in the way it deals with the inner texture. It's quite universal, more so than the live micro DAC, because you can use it as a DAC, maybe as a DAC and preamp, maybe as a DAC and headphone amplifier, and of course don't forget that it also has a streamer inside. And I can say that one of these features was overlooked on the Serenade Junior. You already know my opinion of it compared with the original Serenade, so let's briefly compare it with the FiiO K15 that I tried just a few weeks ago. First of all, the K15 is also Roon enabled, and that's great. You can use it as a Roon endpoint, but it does not have Tidal Connect, and I believe this was an oversight on FiiO's part. It also provides the same 3 watts per channel via headphones, but it does not use a linear transformer, instead relying on a switching mode power supply, and there will be a difference sound-wise via headphones. Also, it doesn't have an R2R ladder DAC, but 2 AKM AK4497 DAC chips. So I'd say that the sound profile is somewhat similar, but not identical, and there are some notable changes. The sound is sharper on the K15, and I'd say that it's mildly more detailed sounding than the Serenade Junior, especially on the micro scale. You can hear a little bit more nuances lingering in there in the background, but at the cost of not being as punchy or as organic sounding like the Serenade Junior. The Junior trades this extreme resolution and a little bit of sharpness with a stronger kick in the bass and with a denser mid-range and with a somewhat rolled off upper treble. In the end, we don't have losers and winners, but 2 slightly different units that have 2 slightly different sound profiles. Wrapping up at $649, the Serenade Junior already feels like an overachiever with so many features and never disappointing with its sound via loudspeakers or headphones. But here's a pro tip for you guys. Just today I found it a little bit cheaper in the US at $579 and also it's a little bit cheaper on European HiFiMan web store for around 600 and something euros. So yes, you can get it a little bit cheaper if you want, making it even a sweeter deal. Performance-wise, this lady in red seems to be the same good old Serenade with slightly less power on top and slightly more distortion that only Batman can hear. But if you are listening both loudspeakers and headphones and you are a Tidal user like myself, I see simply a tremendous value with the Junior. And except for not having a line level input, it's hard complaining about anything else. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed my review. Please smash that like button and consider subscribing if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next week with the last DAC amp combo that you'll ever need. Cheers!